main reason I wanted to discuss this is because the Whole Foods CEO, John Mackey, he's expressed a lot of libertarian sort of sentiments. And there was a post that I saw going around on Twitter by CNBC, and basically John Mackey said the best solution is to not need health care and for Americans to change how they eat and live. Now, you hear that, and that is common sense, right? There's no lie in what it is that he said. It doesn't matter if the healthcare was free or you had to pay for it. That is the preferable thing to do, is to not need healthcare in the first place. So preventive metrics and what he does, in which it goes into detail in the deal, like he says right here. It says, I mean, honestly, we talk about healthcare. The best solution is to not need healthcare. He goes on, the best solution is to change the way people eat, the way people live, and a lifestyle and diet. There's no reason why people shouldn't be healthy and have longer health span. A bunch of drugs is not going to solve the problem. There's not a lie in anything it was that he said. Nothing. Mackey says 71% of Americans are overweight, 42.5% are obese. Clearly, we're making bad choices in the way we eat. It's not a sustainable path, and so I'm calling it out. There is not a lie in anything it was that he is saying. Now, what did the disingenuous people do? Same thing they do with the whole body positivity thing. Make excuses as to why people are built the way that they are. So what they it's a play on words. It's a very disingenuous thing. It's a very dishonest thing in terms of what they did was try to flip it and make it seem like he suggested that nobody will ever need health care ever. That is not what he said. That's not what he said. He never said that. And for anybody to even suggest that he did say it, it's being dishonest. So what you will do, if you go to this post, you'll see a bunch of people saying, well, what about these types of people? This person with this sort of disease or illnesses that they may have gotten that were genetic or something like that. Never mind the fact that a lot of things that they're mentioning, including cancer, which for whatever reason we don't talk about. Even the American Cancer Society concedes the idea that almost 20% of cancers can be attributed to cancer deaths, can be attributed to bad eating, over obesity, poor nutrition, and those types of things. Like, so even with cancer, that's a thing. So for people to act like John had said something that was insane, people's minds immediately go to the exceptions. Why? Because they feel like they're a part of it. Nobody wants to concede the fact that they fat ass is eating bad and can attribute to the high blood pressure that they have, the diabetes, and everything else that they may have or they're struggling with that actually puts a burden on the healthcare system, which is why it is absolutely silly for people to talk about free healthcare anyway. It's stupid either way it goes, right? Thinking that someone else should be responsible for paying for your healthcare services. But most importantly, or perhaps more importantly, they're not advocating something that comes with the free healthcare comes mandatory exercise, mandatory, not smoking, or mandatory, meal prepping, and that's not even on the table. What folks actually want, same thing they want with everything else. They want others to subsidize their bad behavior. That's what they want. They want folks to subsidize their bad behavior. So when they fat ass eat everything in the damn refrigerator and they don't move, and then that stuff sort of accumulates and they have all of these sorts of issues, instead of addressing that, they would much rather it be a situation where someone else is responsible for paying for their health care. And the disingenuous take what he said, which any rational person would say this, right? It's, if you take care of your body, if you eat right, you are less likely to end up needing health care in the first place. That's not an opinion, guys. If your doctor actually cared about you, they'd be saying the same damn thing. Now, maybe we can talk about the economic incentive involved with the state. We're seeing that with COVID, in which they get paid to house COVID patients. So I don't know if that's a part of it, where they're like, maybe they encourage you to be, I hope they don't encourage you to be unhealthy so they can reap the benefits from getting the money. But even in the post, they acknowledged that he was talking about, even as healthcare as a structure, there are other things, like he says here. He talks about, I think, he says, I do think that there are, good healthcare system models that can work. He talks about Singapore. He says where individuals pay for routine care and insurance is used for the large cost. So for anybody to try to spin his words as if he had said, nobody get healthcare ever, nobody will never need it, was disingenuous. But that's exactly, if you go to some of the retweets, if you go to the actual post, I'm pretty sure it'll be here we go, right? Autoimmune disorders, allergies, broken bones, heart disease, strokes. You'll need he says that he has the cure. The hilarious thing is this crackhead doesn't even seem to understand that what the fuck causes heart disease. What causes heart disease? That's one of the leading causes of deaths. Do some people may get some issues because genetics? Sure. But to act like people's lack of exercising or poor nutrition, bad eating habits don't contribute to some of these things that they're even mentioning, it goes to show how deep the propaganda is. Where someone tells you to get, it's a fact, right? It's not an opinion, guys. It's a fact that if you eat well, you eat better, you work out, you are going to be less likely to end up in the hospital, because there's a lot of diseases, many of which this crackhead right here even mentioned, thinking that he had some sort of cool talking point, where if you are obese, if you are overweight, if you are eating badly, you are more likely or more susceptible to other certain, diseases. That's not an opinion. That's not an opinion. But why? It goes right back to what we had discussed yesterday on the show. And that was the whole body positivity thing, where they said that the fat, these heifers are not, well, no, they say that they are healthy, which is insane. And this is why I don't think it's a coincidence that when it comes to the body positivity movement, which is just turned into fat acceptance, why a lot of those movements go hand in hand with people that advocate for state orchestrated, endorsed, paid for, administered healthcare. I don't think that's a coincidence as to why that's the case. There's nothing that John Mackey said where he's being completely honest. The one way you could cut the cost of healthcare is watching what you consume and moving. That is a real thing. That's not an opinion. But he says it, and they act like he said something crazy, and the disingenuous try to spin what it is that he said and try to make it seem like nobody will ever need health care ever. So they go to the things that may be genetic or some sort of diseases and say, well, John Mackey has the answer. He's just saying don't go to the doctor. Like, yeah, that's what he said. Only that wasn't what he said, and you're being disingenuous. And I think they know that. What they are actually doing is deviating from what he said, which, again, is not an opinion. That's not an opinion. And if your doctor actually gave a flying rat's ass about you, they would be admitting that too.